All right, guys, we're done with demand, so now we're moving on to supply. And I'll try to go a little bit quicker just because it's a lot of the same stuff, except now you have to think of yourself as a producer. So that's where some students get caught, is that they still think about themselves as a consumer, but that's if you're talking about demand. With supply, we're talking about the producers. So if you're the one producing a good, what would you do? So try to do that for this lecture. And again, the concepts, there's a lot of similar concepts, and so it shouldn't be too bad. So the learning targets are: I can define and illustrate supply through schedules and graphs. I can distinguish between changes in supply and changes in quantity supplied. Again, very similar to what we talked about with demand. Explain the direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Identify and explain the variables which cause a change in supply or a shift in supply, and illustrate and explain the changes in quantity supplied given a price change. So you can see those are all very similar to the demand targets, except now we're talking about supply. So quantity supplied, or QS, is the amount of a good that sellers are willing and able to sell. And the law of supply, again, kind of looks like the law of demand with one big difference. This one says it states that other things equal, such as paribus, that the quantity supply of a good rises when the price of a good rises. So in this one, we have a positive relationship, unlike demand, where we had a negative relationship. So the price goes up, heck yeah, I want to produce more. Price goes down, oh, that's not really worth it. I'll go make something else instead. So that's the law of supply. And again, here's a supply schedule. And you can just see that this person would be willing to sell 0 ice cream cones for 0 cents or 50 cents, but would be willing to sell 5 ice cream cones if that person is able to get $3 for each one. So that's just supply schedule. And you can graph that supply schedule as it is there in the corner. And again, at $1, I'm willing to supply 1, $1.52, $2.03, $2.54, $3.05. This is fun. There's my supply curve. And if the price goes up from $2 to $2.50, what's going to happen to the quantity supplied? Well, it will go up. Now, again, some of you might say, well, if there's an increase in price, I won't buy anything. Well, again, we're not talking about demand right now. We're just talking about if I were only to look at the supply, what would I do as a producer? If I can get $2.50 for my ice cream cones, I will produce more than what I did for $2. So the increase, there would be an increase in quantity of cones supplied. Again, quantity supplied is a change in price, so don't forget that. So if it went from $1 to, let's see, how much? $3, that would be a movement on the curve. It would be a change in price of the product. And that is just a change in quantity supplied. And there it is. So that's price and price. And again, don't forget, oh, let's do it one more time. There's price. So quantity supplied equals is a change in price of the product. Now, shifting gears, literally and figuratively, I guess, there's a shift in supply to the right or to the left due to these following things. So these things have nothing to do with the price of the product. They have to do with other factors that are not in that vertical axis. So you have the supply curve, and you can see the graph below. An increase in supply is a shift to the right, and a decrease in supply is a shift to the left. And we'll go over that in a second as well. But if we're talking about ice cream, if there's new technology, and it's going to be cheaper to make it at every price. So there will be an increase in supply, and that will be a shift to the right. Now, when you shift the curve, I am going to ask you guys to use the words increase or decrease. Sometimes people like to say, well, supply would go up. Well, yeah, it would go up, but if I'm looking at the graph, if I use the word up, I'm going to think it goes to the left. But it's an increase, and that's going to shift to the right. So I don't want people to get confused with that. So let's use increase or decrease. So a new technology would increase my supply, and that would be a shift to the right. If we had international events happening, like maybe a war or natural disasters, that would also affect my supply because maybe crops of sugarcane have been destroyed or something. That would obviously decrease my supply of ice cream, and that would shift it to the left. Government, what if they gave subsidies for sugar? Well, if they're willing to give a subsidy to something, that's giving money towards that product. So that's an increase in supply. It has nothing to do with the price of the product, but it just has something to do with the the government giving them money for a subsidy, perhaps. Or they might tax the product. And so if there's a tax on something, that would decrease the supply. Again, sometimes, as a consumer, we think that tax affects us, so it'll be demand. But for our purposes in this course, whenever we say the word taxes or subsidies, that is going to be a supply thing. And so just think of that. Here we have the word tigers, and so G stands for government, and that's going to be taxes and subsidies. So remember that. E is for expectations, and so as a producer, again, if you know that it's going to be sunny out tomorrow and warm, what am I going to do now? Well, right now, I would hold back on my supply and wait till tomorrow so I can get more money for it tomorrow. So same thing with the gas station that's across the street from Anoka. If they know the price is going to go up next week, what are they going to do this week? Well, they wouldn't supply as much because they would want to wait until they know the prices are going to go up because they're the producers. They're just thinking about what's happening with that price right now. So that's looking at expectations. Resources or inputs used to make different goods. And there's certainly a lot of things that go into making ice cream, like flavoring and machinery and technology and labor and ice and cream, I guess. So those would all be inputs. I don't think wheat's used. Maybe wheat's used in the cones or something. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But wheat is an input for a lot of goods, and the prices of wheat have started to go up. And it even says here, spring wheat prices topped a record $15 a bushel at the Minneapolis Grain Exchange Thursday as worldwide shortage put pressure on supplies. The increase of cost in the high-protein wheat, a key ingredient in breads and cereals, will push up consumers' grocery bills. So it has nothing to do with the price of bread or cereal. It is an input for making those, and so that will decrease the supply. So it doesn't have to do with deal with the price of cereal or breads. It is because it's an input. And so since that's not measured on the vertical axis, that would be a shift in supply. And then size also refers then to the number of producers. So there we have Ben, who enjoys making ice cream, is really good at it, but then maybe he might be joined later on by Jerry. And then all of a sudden you have Ben and Jerry's ice cream and two really smart people that make delicious ice cream. You guys should try the peanut butter ice cream. That is really quite good, and I'm way too addicted to it. All right. In review, a change in the price of the product will be a movement along the supply curve and is called quantity supplied. Again, same concept as demand. Sorry for harping on it so much, but you just got to know that. And if it's something other than price, it'll be a shift in the supply curve, either to the left or to the right, and that is called a change in the supply. And it's going to be because of tigers, one of those other shifters that will shift it. An increase in supply is a shift to the right, and a decrease in supply will be a shift to the left. All right, talk to you guys later.